what's good? My name's Axotol, and today, my friends, this is a tier list video on the items of Risk of Rain 2. Sure, the update was quite a while ago, however, these are the items within the base game. And this is a good excuse for me to talk about my opinions on all the items and, you know, yeah, just general opinions, I guess. Most of them are throughout the same for everybody. By everybody I mean the survivors. However, at the end of the day, there are a few which are better on some than others by quite a bit. Alright, that being said, the soldier syringe is generally good. Some survivors, it's almost useless. However, it's still nice to have it. Like Acrid and Artificer, they both have some kind of attack speed scaling, even though it's not that helpful, but hey. Teddy bears, you love to see it. Best defensive item in the game. You straight up don't take damage upon getting hit. What more could you ask for? Monster Tooth is generally good. It's not worth like stacking. Like going out of your way to stack. We'll put it down here. We'll take it, right? Especially early game, healing is almost non-existent. It's that, Cautious Slug, or Medkit, and pretty much. Normally you don't want to take these, however, because there are better items, but it's pretty good when you do find it, especially again early on when there is no healing to be had. Crit glasses, everybody loves crit. I love crit, you love crit, your grandma loves crit, even though she doesn't know it yet, right? But you know, double damage. That being said, I don't like printing these out before the first loop, right? Because there's a lot of white items that are going to help you more than, you know, the extra 10% chance of doing double damage. And one of those items is the goat hoof. You love to see goat hooves. There is a point in time when you want to stop stacking move speed because you tap your button and then you go flying into the sky on your way to Jeff Bezos on Mars. But, you know, if you got to that point, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. But there's normally nothing to complain about when it comes to goat hooves. That being said, the fungus is too situational to put in any of these categories. On engineer, it's godlike. On the whenever the situation does arise, it is very, very good. But those situations are almost non-existent, right? That being said, it's pretty good as an item in general. The only thing stopping it is the fact that you need to be standing still. Crowbar is meh. I don't think it's that good on most of the champs, most of the survivors. And the survivors that it is good on, it's still whatever at the end of the day. That being said, the tri-tip dagger is generally good. Having that extra bleed is fine on some oh my god, on some I've been playing League lately, so sorry. On some situations, it's on some survivors, it's, you know, the go-to white item. On others, you don't really care about it. Like Bandit is very hard to stack the bleed consistently. But if you can, it does a lot of damage if you can stack it consistently. Otherwise, it's whatever. However, it is a damage item, so generally, you know, it will help. Warbanner's meh. I don't ever go out of my way to pick these up unless the other two options are like a fungus and a shield gen, and even then, I might just ignore the printer, or not the printer, the terminal altogether. So yeah, the buff it gives is pretty good, especially when they added it to where it spawns per teleporter event. But in the end, it's whatever. It doesn't do much. Or it does quite a bit, but it doesn't. It's too hard to get it to activate whenever you want to. It's a nice bonus when it does, but again, it's not worth stacking. Cautious Slug, you love to see it. It doesn't hurt you at all. It's pretty good, especially early on. You get decent healing from it. It heals more than anything else in the game, or any other item in the game, especially if you're trying to take cover and hide. Like, what medkit, you need to get hit in order to heal. Monster Tooth, you need to be able to kill something in order to heal. Leeching Seed is like 1 HP per hit, which isn't good on most people. Crit Scythe, you need crit for it to work. So Cautious Slug is, at least early game, it's definitely really good. I wouldn't go out of your way to stack it that much, but it's, you know, every time it does drop, you love to see it, honestly. I don't think I've ever seen, oh my gosh, another Cautious Slug, unless I'm like 20 rounds in on Monsoon, right? Or 20 stages in on Monsoon. I mean, Shield Gen's not worth the effort. Don't even, if you buy it and it comes up, don't even bother picking it up. It does more harm than good towards the later stages. Pre first loop, I like picking them up because there's no healing to be had. Unless you get like super lucky, and then, you know, then you could just scrap them. But past that, you know, the whole one shot, then heal back to full, only to get one shot, then you can heal back to full. Shield Gen doesn't, it gets rid of the one shot protection, even though, like, however bad you think it is or whatever, it is a thing in the game to think about, and having the extra max health that you can't heal up is not worth it's not worth the investment. So normally after the first loop I scrap them regardless of how much healing I have. Having said, medkit, sure, I'll take it. You need to get hit in order for it to activate, and there's a timer before it activates even. It's pretty solid healing, don't get me wrong, but you don't want to get hit to begin with, right? Gasoline is it's generally good. The mini explosion buff, they made it act like the will-o-wisp. The explosion you get is pretty good. The AoE damage is better on some than others, but that is only because the others already have AoE in their kit, or some like Commando without grenades need it desperately. It's very good on Commando early game. Stun Grenade is meh. Honestly, I think this item is pretty underrated, especially early on, especially if you don't have any kind of CC. This item can save you. I think if this was like 10% by base, it would be a lot better. I think people would just pick it up more. Maybe that's too much. Maybe it was like 10% base and then plus 5 for every stack, right? Then it'd be pretty solid. But I feel like this item is underrated, especially when you can stun the Greater Wisp now. But I digress. Alright. Fireworks, normally it's sure I'll take it. But the later the game goes on, it actually becomes super busted and acts like ceremonial daggers, which I do enjoy quite a bit. It gets to the point where your fireworks that you get from opening a chest or a like barrel or something actually gets you more money than it would cost. But it takes a while to get to that point. But it is, honestly, you love to see it late game. It's pretty fun to mess around with, but in the end, it's just meh. Most of the time, it's meh. Towards the later stages, again, it acts like ceremonial daggers, and then it's whatever from there, right? Alright, energy drink, sure, I'll take it. It's not like, yes, it's move speed, but you need to be sprinting for it to work. I don't go out of my way to pick it up unless it's one of these items down here. Goat Hoof is usually better in general. They did change how the scaling works, or they changed something about it to where it like actually works like it's a normal item and doesn't get outscaled by Goat Hoof after like 2 things, or 2 stacks of Goat Hoof or something dumb like that. So now it's pretty good. Backup mags, at the very least, it's in this category. At the most, you love to see it, right? It depends on the survivor you're playing, but it's not it's not polarized like the fungus is, right? Sticky bomb is generally good. Yeah, it's generally good. It's extra damage. They nerfed it like first patch right after release or something, which is honestly like salute it, how the mighty have fallen kind of thing. But it's damage. It's decent damage. It's only 5%, which I think needs to change, especially because the bleed from tri-tip is so much more potent than the sticky bomb is. I don't know if the sticky bomb applies on hit effects. I don't think it does. But I don't know. I feel like this item is a bit too nerfed. If they make it to like, I don't know, 7% or something, 10% each, then it would be totally fine, especially because the damage is capped and the damage itself doesn't stack, unlike tri-tip does. So, key to situational. We're gonna leave it here because, you know, if you get it, then you get a green item. Depending on the green item, it's either great or bad. But most of the time, finding a key, it's like, great, now I have to make it to the next level. But if you're thinking like that, you're probably not going to make it to the next level. But, you know, it's too neutral that it does more harm than good by the key itself. However, you know, you get the key, you get the lockbox, and you get a chrono bauble. You get the key, you get the lockbox, and you get the Lepton Daisy or something, or infused. Like, you see what I'm trying to say? It depends on what green item you get when you get it. Armor piercing rounds, meh. It's whatever. 20% extra damage towards boss. Teleporter boss, not boss enemies. There is a difference there. I believe that is the case. If not, then, you know, I guess I'm dumb, but hey, that's just me. It's whatever. I don't think this item is worth it at all. If you can't, it's not the boss that's normally the issue either. It's the other monsters that spawn with the boss that's normally the problem, and this doesn't affect those monsters. Topaz Brooch, you love to see it. Honestly, you love to see it. Like, I don't care what it says. It's better than the healing because you don't take damage technically. Not technically, like figuratively, whatever, however you want to twist it. Technically, you don't take damage because you're killing things. If you can kill things, then, you know, you get that fat shield, and then you're good to go. Focus crystals, meh. On melee survivors, it's okay at best. Otherwise, there's no point, right? It's whatever. It is flat damage, which is okay, but you need to be too close for most survivors' comfort zone. So at worst, it's meh. At best, it's sure. Like, I would not go out of your way to pick it up. Bison steak is the worst item in the game that isn't a troll item. I hate bison steaks so much. It's so bad. Like, to put it into perspective, a green item or a green chest costs twice as much as a white chest or a small chest, right? Infusion, yes, you have to stack it, but that's not a problem. Especially later on you go, it gets easier. When you do stack it, you get 100 max HP. When you get a bison steak, you only get 25. So infusion is 4 times as much value than a bison steak is, and infusion is only worth twice as much. So bison steak is absolute garbage. Don't ever pick it up. It's not worth your time. And armor plating's meh. The later the stages go on, the worse it gets. So that's all I will say about that. That being said, ATG missile, you'll love to see it. Best green item, honestly. Better than any of the other green items. Just in general, the damage output is way too good for anyone and everyone. Like, it's what hard carries your games, honestly, more than any other item in the game that isn't like an S+ tier red item. Wisp in the jar, it's generally good. It's not crazy, and the difference is that you have to kill an enemy, and then another enemy has to be near the first enemy that died. But it does a lot of AoE damage. It's still like really good, don't get me wrong, but Like if I had to choose between ATG and Will-O-Wisp, it's ATG all the way, 100%. Hopu Feather, you love to see it. You can never go wrong with multiple jumps. Vertical mobility, in my opinion, is more necessary than horizontal mobility. And Hopu Feather is the only one that does that. However, Hopu Feather is the best one at doing that because the other vertical mobility stuff isn't. The way they do it is not as good. Is not as good just in general. Ukulele, you love to see it. Every class benefits from Ukulele regardless of what class you have. It is on hit, it procs everything else. It's better than... It's not... I don't know. It's hard to say between ATG Missile and Ukulele. Like, you both love them regardless of who you're playing. I don't think there's ever a time where I said, no, I don't want another Ukulele. There's been a time where it's been like, another Ukulele? Sure, I guess. I don't need it, but it's never been, no, I don't want it, or why did you give me this item, right? Leeching Seed, sure, I will take it. I want to put it into meh, but there's not a lot of healing in the game. And if you don't have crit, then it 100% is better than the crit scythe if you don't have any crit. So, it's whatever. I'll take it. Predatory Instincts, it's generally good. It depends on who you are playing most of the time, and it depends on the amount of crit you have. But when you do hit that, like, even if you have just Predatory Instincts and the 1% base crit, it's still, the impact it gives for one stack of it is very, very impactful, and you can tell with everyone except like Artificer and Acrid, and those two will always be like the go-to because they don't have any on hit stuff at all, but you can always feel the impact that this item gives. Red Whip is meh. The buff that they gave it to where you can take damage and the item still goes, like still is in effect, is really nice. But there are just much better green items that you would rather have in general. That being said, oh how the mighty have fallen. Old War Stealth Kit. I wish they would change it back, man. I really wish. It was the most underrated item in the game besides like Stun Grenade. It was so good. So good, but now they change it to where you need to reach a certain HP threshold before it'll activate, and then once it does activate, the effect itself got nerfed. Basically, you would turn invis when you hit... right now, it's when you hit 30% HP, I believe, you go invis. But before, it used to be whenever you took damage, you would go invis, and that damage depends on the amount of damage you take and the amount of... I don't know if it was the amount of stacks you had of Old War Stealth Kit. They made the item more consistent, sure, but hey, it's whatever. It's so much worse, especially because Invis got super nerfed. Crit Scythe is like, it's generally good. Unless you're playing Artificer where it's bad. Like, it's good, especially it gets better with crit. It's not as good as Predatory Instincts, but it is the best healing item, or scaling healing item in the game by far. Fuel Cell, you'll love to see it. I don't know if that's what the item's called, but you'll love to see it. Extra equipment charge is always good. Doesn't matter what equipment you have, it's always good, unless it's like the aspects, but then that doesn't really count. Bandoiler, I think, is fairly underrated, especially early on. That's complete skill reset for all of your skills, which is kind of nuts. In all actual, like, it's a good item. Would you stack it? Probably, but I do enjoy getting this item quite often. But it's not something like I would choose over an ATG, or I would choose over a Hopu Feather or a Fuel Cell, or right. By the way, these items, when they're in their own categories, I'm not ranking them based on what they are in their categories. I'm just putting the item there. All right, infusion, it's meh. It's garbage. Max HP is garbage. It gets worse the farther in game you go, or the farther the run, the longer the run goes, I should say. So yeah, Berserker Greaves, sure, I'll take it. It's not crazy on everybody, but when it does proc, it's pretty solid. It's a good chunk of move speed, good chunk of attack speed, and later on in the run you go, you can keep it, like the uptime is almost 100%. That being said, it's not like crazy or anything, but it is a nice bonus to have. Rose Buckler's meh. You get damage reduction when you're sprinting. You don't want to get hit anyway, so what's the point? The bands are... I'm gonna put them here. They're too situational, honestly. A lot of classes... I don't know. It's hard to say. For Commando, he can't really proc it unless you have the grenades. For Huntress, you either need her alternate special or you need to hit like a lot of things with your glaive, which doesn't happen all the time. Bandit, I don't know if it works on Bandit like at all. Probably on his R ability. Like I don't know. It's too situational. We'll put them up in generally good. They're generally good to have regardless, but I don't go out of my way to pick these up anymore because they stopped it from being on hit to like having a 10-second cooldown, which I don't agree with. I think if they made it stack to where like every stack gave, I don't know, or reduced the cooldown by 1/3 of a second, then I think the item would be much better. But as it stands right now, like it doesn't do much. The 10 seconds takes forever. The only way to get rid of it is having a trash active item that you're not going to use anyway at all, like ever. And then the damage is whatever at the end of the day. I'm gonna put these here. I don't know. I don't think they're that good anymore. They used to be amazing, but now they're just whatever. Chronobauble, meh. Normally I put it in not worth the effort, but most survivors need one Chronobauble in order to proc Deathmark, which is why I'm putting it in the meh and not in the not worth the effort. I take it back. It's not worth the effort. When you get one, don't pick any other one up. It's not worth it at all. Wax Quail, sure, I'll take it. I don't think it's like that crazy. It's good and it helps with dodging early game. But after early, like if you have too many stacks, you're gonna start, like you won't be able to control yourself. Same thing with the move speed. But you're not gonna be able to control yourself, and you're gonna have the move speed on top of that. So at that point, like it's not worth jumping around, sprinting when you can just walk everywhere faster than, you know, anything else in the game. Guillotine, sure, I'll take it. It used to be like god tier item because it used to be a white item, and I think the buff was also, I think it was less. I think the effect cap was less in general, but now it's whatever. It's green item. It's pretty balanced. It's pretty solid, but it's nothing crazy. Warhorn, too situational. It depends on your equipment, and it depends on the cooldown of your equipment. It also depends on what survivor you're playing, right? I think too situational is pretty good. I think when you do activate it, it's generally good, but there's too many variables that make it go all over the place. Lepton Daisy's meh. Like I know you need healing, but it's only during the teleporter, and if you're that low during the teleporter, like you're probably gonna die the next stage. It's nothing crazy. Sure, it's a lot of healing, but it's whatever. Because there's no guarantee that you're gonna be like missing health when you're at the halfway point, right? When you're at 50%, there's no guarantee that that you need the healing. And then right after the healing, you get hit for 80% of your health, and then you need the healing again, but you're not gonna get it, right? That kind of stuff. And when you do get it, it's whatever, you know. Razor wire, sure, I'll take it. It's kind of a meme item, in my opinion. I don't go out of my way to stack it, but it is good, and it does clear maps if you get, or it doesn't clear maps, but it clears it clears the nearby area around you when you get hit by a burning elite, like past the first loop, right? It can be good, but you don't want it to activate. That's the issue. Gore's Tome is generally good. Extra income on kills, right? Chance of getting a free chest on a kill. Pretty much. Any way you want to think of it, it's whatever. It's generally good. I'd rather have it over Leeching Seed. I'd rather have it over the bands. I'd rather have it over Wax Quail, Guillotine. It's pretty solid, and the chance for it to drop also increases per stack. So take it what you will. That being said, Squid Polyp, I'd take it. It's not the best green item, but it does draw aggro away, and that's really good. The damage they do is pretty decent as well, especially when they change the companions to scale with the enemy level. Deathmark, it's too situational. If you can proc it consistently, then it's amazing, but most of the time you can't proc it consistently. That's all I say about that. Otherwise, it's just flat, like 50% extra damage on that target. It's pretty solid if you can get it to go. Bazooka onto the red items. You love to see it. It's flat. It's just straight damage boost for everyone. Better on some than others, but even the ones that can use it inefficiently still benefit greatly from it. Ceremonial daggers, like it's crazy good. You know, this is the item that wipes the map and makes sure everything dies as soon as they spawn in. Frost Relic is meh at best. At worst, it's not worth the effort to pick it up. This item can get you killed as well from the pots on the stages, but the damage it does is lackluster. The AoE range is lackluster. It's not like when you see a red item, this item's not one of them that you want to see. Happiest Mask is also there. It doesn't do much. The chances of dropping, or the chances of spawning a ghost also is pretty low to begin with, so at best it's meh. Head Stompers is meh, or headset, whatever you want to call it. It's whatever. It's one of those items that give the vertical mobility, but it forces you. The issue is that you can't decide when to go down, or you can decide when to go down and you can drop down faster, but it's not as controllable as a Hopu Feather is. It's not as consistent as a Hopu Feather is. Like in Hopu Feather, you can tell how high you're gonna jump, you can tell how long it will take to go down, and you can do that multiple times, right? This one, you have one big jump and then you glide down, unless you use its active, then you slam down and then it's gone, and then it's not that good of an item, honestly. Again, especially for a red item. Especially for a red item. That's what also makes it much worse than it needs to be. It's because it's a red item. Nakuna's Opinion, sure, I'll take it. Not many survivors heal on consistently in order to use it to its fullest effect, but the damage it does is good enough to be acceptable, regardless of how much you do heal. Tesla Coil is, you love to see it. It's one of the better red items. If it's not in the you love to see it, then it's generally good, but there's no reason not to pick it up. I don't even think it hits the pots like the Frost Relic does, but I'm not too sure about that one. this it's the best item in the game, right? End quote, quote end quote, whatever you want to say. That being said, like, I don't think it's that crazy. Like, oh my gosh, I'm committing a sin. Like, hear me out. Like, if you see this stage 1, it doesn't do anything. Congratulations, you have 2% crit now. And at most. The only thing this works on, like, that's actually good, is the ukulele and the ATG missile. That's the only thing it's worth using with. It doesn't affect teddy bears. You can get max crit by itself. Bleed you can get by it yourself. Like, it affects these too, but you can stack these up to 100% anyway, so it doesn't matter. This is always active. These no longer proc with on hit. There's nothing. Like, it's only good for these two things, honestly. Now, yes, there's like different proc coefficients and stuff, like, yeah, but like every other item that isn't a ukulele or the ATG missile, it'll do the same. Like, it doesn't affect much, it just makes it better for a certain period of time, because I don't think it like double stacks. Like, if you have 100% sticky bomb chance and then you have a Clover, I don't think it'll do 2 sticky bombs per hit. I don't think that's how the item works. It got nerfed because these two got changed, and I don't know, man. I don't think it's that crazy anymore. Like, yeah, it's still the go-to because these two items, it's only good because these two items are good, right? ATG and ukulele, but it's not. That's it. That's the only items it works with now. Besides the happiest mask, and like, you don't want a happiest mask at all. It might work with these aspects, but you don't want these either. It works with the boss items, these two, but like, why? Like, the chances of you getting these boss items to begin with are pretty low. I don't think it's that crazy anymore, honestly. I don't know, maybe that's just me. Oh, yeah, sentient meat hook, by the way, it also works. Like, I'd rather have the sentient meat hook than the Clover, because sentient meat hook does proc on hits. It procs. I think ukulele and sentient meat hook proc each other, which can be ridiculous damage all of a sudden for no reason. And sure, Clover doubles, like, it's okay. These 3 items are the only thing it affects in the game, pretty much. Besides countering purity. Maybe I'm wrong, right? Maybe I'm wrong, but that's just what it looks like now. That being said, Alien Head is, sure, I'll take it. I put in generally good, but I changed my mind instantly. I'd rather stack. Like, if I got an Alien Head, I'd be pretty bummed out, because like, it's 33% less. Not many abilities in the game are that long. On top of that, you can get a full reset from just like killing something with Bandoiler. That being said, this item's broken to all heck. Like, this item's insanely good. As long as you have a decent equipment, and by the time you get this item, you're probably gonna have a decent equipment. If you don't have a decent equipment, then that's your next step, is getting a decent equipment. Hardlight Afterburner is too situational. Is it? Is that correct? I think the only thing, nah, it's generally good. I don't think it's like crazy good. Depends on, we're putting in generally because like, you don't want it on Artificer. It doesn't do anything on Artificer, right? Depending on what you're using for Captain, it can be pretty solid. It's whatever. It's whatever. More often than not, like, it's generally good at the best of times. Dio's meh. It's useless until you die, and then it's useless again. That's all I'll say about it. This item is not worth the effort. If you pick it up, you're planning to scrap a red item, and then good luck trying to find a 3D printer that has red items. That's all I can say. If you're stacking shields, then sure, it's gonna be decent, but it's not worth picking up. It's not worth picking up. This item is just better than Alien Head in every single way. Infinite cooldowns as long as you have killed an elite enemy. That's, well, like, what more do you want? Like, it's straight up better than Alien Head. Nature's Rack. Love to see it. Double healing. What are you complaining about, right? This item is not as good as Nature's Rack because you need the healing for this item to work, and then it'll work. Otherwise, it's useless if you're not max HP. I think that's how the item works. It's been a while since I've seen it, but I don't care about the effect at all, so it's whatever at the end of the day. Plus, you're gonna have a ton of, okay, you know what? Meh at best. You're gonna have a ton of topaz brooches. Like, these two don't stack, so I'd rather have the topaz brooch over the stupid shield any day of the week. This item's broken. Most normal enemies, if you can proc it, here you go, generally good. If you can proc it, which pretty much everyone can on a normal basis without too much stress, it's pretty good. Most survivors can proc it with ease. When you do on a normal enemy, if they're not dead yet, then they will be soon because they take bonus damage. Technically, they would take bonus damage in vanilla on Monsoon. Bosses will take, you know, true damage, if you want to call it that, with quotes, right? Then it's good. This item is generally good. I think it's like better than that because this item can proc itself. And by that, I mean, it will go out, it will kill 20 things, and then, like, it'll go out, kill a few things, proc on hit chances, those things will kill something else, and then it'll fill up again, and then it'll go out and repeat over and over and over until things are gone. I think the only downside to it is that it is kind of a shorter range, but even then, it's still not, like, too short to warrant not picking it up. It's very good. I like seeing this item, and I will take it any day of the week. Plant is meh. Sure, it's healing, but like Monster Tooth just heals more in general, honestly. This item is busted OP, however, it's too situational because it's only on one class, so, or it's only on one survivor. So, onto the boss items. This item, you love to see it. Slight bonus health, but a ton of bonus health regen. I guess the harder the difficulty, the better this item gets. You don't care about it in like Drizzle, but if you're playing Drizzle, what are you doing with your life? You better be playing Drizzle just to unlock crap. Alright, that's how I unlocked it, so I'm not gonna judge you if that's how you did it. Beetle Guard, I think it's underrated. I really think it's underrated. I am happy picking this up. It's better than most green items, in my opinion. Sorely because, or not sorely, that's not the word I want. Specifically because it draws a lot of aggro, and it also got buffed with the last patch, and it does a ton of damage, and it takes a ton of damage. It's actually really good now, and I like it quite a bit. I won't complain if I get it, that's for sure. Halcyon Seed's too situational. You need to kill Aurelian Knight, and by the time you can kill Aurelian Knight, you're either gonna kill everything in the game or you're gonna die in like 2 stages. It doesn't do much for the teleporter fight, but it's a tank. It's whatever. Actually, we're gonna put it in meh. It's whatever. If you can get it, sure, it's fun. It's a good meme, but there's no point. This item's underrated in my opinion. This item's nuts. Sure, it's pretty short range, but you can sprint, kill everything on the map without like looking at it, or you can kill everything in your general area without looking at them and just running away. Like, what do you want? And it skills with move speed, and it skills with more stat. Like, it's a good item. These items are way too situational. I don't recommend going out of your way to get them unless you're trying to get the logbook, and even then it's probably still not worth picking them up. This item is generally good. You need good on hit chance. You need good proc coefficients, you need good attack speed, or just attacks per second. And then it's pretty good. It's better than most. We're gonna put this down here. Actually, it's better than most items in the game, especially most damage items in the game. The AoE it brings is great. The single target damage is great. It feels like the old Tornado or the old Kajaro's band. Honestly, like it's just so much better than Kajaro's is right now. Right, this item's broken. Doesn't matter who you have, it is crit, and if they are bleeding, it scales off of crit, which is kind of whatever, right? Which makes it go down, but then it adds bleed based on crit, so you don't need tri-tips anymore. Although it's still worth building tri-tips because instead of adding one proc of bleed, if you have both, it's instead procs 2 procs, which is what you want with bleed. And then when they die and they have bleed on them, they explode, and that deals more damage and more bleed to enemies, and then those explode, and then it's such a good item. It's best boss item in the game, 100%. This item, sure, I'll take it. I think it's underrated. I think if the range was longer, then it'd be better, or if it had more suction targets, more targets to suck off of, then it's pretty solid. But as of right now, it's whatever. The healing's whatever. The damage is whatever. The slow is decent for death mark, but it's whatever at the end of the day. And then this one's meh. It's whatever. You don't want to be low HP. When it does, sure, it'll wipe everything, but like you don't want to get hit for that much damage. This item is exactly the same idea as the molten perforator, except it's just straight up worse. It's for the same reason why you want the fire bolts instead of the plasma bolts on Artificer, is because this item does way more damage than the overloading perforator, or the shock perforator, whatever you want to call it. Molten perforator will outclass it 100%. On top of that, you need to go so far into the run to get an overloading worm to spawn as a boss, and then you don't even have the chance of getting this item, and then when you do get it, it's still underwhelming because you're already going to one-shot everything on the map anyway. So it's whatever. It's slightly more DPS for nothing. This item's garbage, honestly. It's extra healing, but it's just bad. I don't like it. These cores, sure, I'll take it. It's another companion, and it scales off of the amount of companions you have, and it scales off of its own stacks. Companions are pretty good now, and by companions, it's the beetle guards, the cores, and every drone you have. I don't know if it counts other survivors. I'm going to assume yes. It's good, and you will love it. Trust me. Plus, the damage they do is pretty solid as well. Okay. Onto Lunar items. This item's generally good. If you want a meme, it's more of a meme item now than anything else. I don't pick up Lunar items in general unless I'm picking up the heresy items. This item's whatever. I'll put it down here. If you want to pick it up and do it like twice damage, then sure, pick it up, go ahead, but you're gonna get one shot. And the run will probably end really, like, much quicker than you think it will. Brittle Crown is too situational. I think it's pretty solid. The effect is pretty solid, especially early on. No, early on, I think it's pretty bad. Later on in the run, it's pretty good, because you just hit things and things die. You get gold, you get money for hitting them, you get... Then they, yeah, it's solid enough, but I don't think it's much better on other survivors than it is on others. And even then, it's whatever at the end of the day. This item is not worth the effort of picking up. This item's not worth the effort of picking up. This item is god tier. This is one of the best items in the game, period. This item is... Personally, I see this item as a straight upgrade on most survivors. Most survivors would be much better if they had this ability in replace of what they have currently. This one is also... I don't think it's as good. Depends on what your auto attack is. If you have a melee that isn't mercenary, then it's good. Otherwise, it depends on the class you're playing. But when you do take it, usually it's going to be a straight upgrade. This item does not matter. It's not worth talking about because it doesn't change your gameplay. It just lets you kill a boss. This item is generally... yeah, it's generally good. Don't pick it up if you're doing eclipse runs because then you're gonna screw yourself over. As well as don't pick it up in the void fields. Do the void fields and then pick this item up, because it does shrink the size of those things as well in the void planes. This item is a meme. You'll love to see it. It also one-shots everything. Don't have any stun in your kit, and this item actually does insane damage. Don't get hit in the process. If it's not a meme, right, it's without it like counting it as a meme, this item by itself is actually pretty solid in my opinion. But the fact that it is a meme and you control your friends, priceless. This item is too situational in my opinion. It's only good if you have razor wire and if you have on hit effects. Otherwise, it's not worth using. I think the damage itself isn't that crazy, and the range itself is pretty small to begin with. But if you want to go that route, it does tons of damage, especially with razor wire. This item is not worth picking up. This item, I'm gonna put it here because I know a lot of people swear by this item. Personally, I don't like this item at all. If you can get the cooldown lower than the effect duration, then this item becomes like one of the best items in the game, because you just do tons of damage and there's no downside. But if you can't get the cooldown lower, then there are going to be downsides and you will see it. This item is pretty solid. If you pick it up, prepare to fight a lot of elites. But elites means tons of money, so if you get to kill them, go for it. This item is really good. There comes a point in the game where you don't one-shot monsters, but monsters start one-shotting you. And this item only benefits you if you're in the field. And monsters, like, it's not going to do much to monsters anyway, because they already do a ton of your damage, or a ton of your health, right? I mean, past that, you're gonna one-shot monsters anyway without needing this field, so it's solid. It helps you out earlier in the game, and then it goes to neutral eventually, the longer the run goes, so pick it up if you want. Purity is too situational to put in anywhere. It's kind of a meme in my opinion. It's good, but you need to build around it. Otherwise, it's whatever. I think the effect is actually pretty fun, especially on some survivors. Unfortunately, you got to make sure you got some clovers if you want the ATGs and ukuleles to proc. Otherwise, you will never see those things ever in your life. Two more lunar items. This item, I don't like it. It's meh at best. It does decent damage. It's too hard to aim, in my opinion. It's too hard to use it effectively, but it's pretty solid. And then this item is generally good. Most specials in the game are pretty solid by itself, but depending on who you're playing, this item it's much better than any special you could ever get. If you're playing Commando, Mercenary, Bandit, Captain, Huntress, maybe, Artificer, not really, Engineer, no, you don't want this on Engineer, you're gonna get yourself killed. Uh, Acrid, maybe not. No, definitely not. This item, it depends on who you're playing, but usually it's very good on the items that it, or on the survivors that it does work with. Otherwise, don't ever pick it up because you're gonna kill yourself. All right, equipment time. This item is one of the better equipments by far. I think the missile launcher and royal capacitor, I think in my eyes, are pretty even. Regardless of how much cooldown you have, regardless of how much like if you have the ultimate combo or whatever, because this item can wipe the whole map without you looking at them. This item you need to, you know, you need to keep your head on a swivel. They have their ups and downs, but I think they're equal in power, honestly, at the end of the day. Especially because they both proc on hit effects, sure. But this item, but the missile launcher will proc much more on hit effects than the capacitor will ever proc. So that's the reasoning behind it. Don't at me. That's just what I think. Foreign fruit, sure, I'll take it. Black hole, I think is generally good. There's never a time where you say, oh darn, I want the monsters to be spread apart from each other, right? Like there's never a time when you want that. I forget the ocular HUD, that's what its name is. This item gets worse as the run goes longer because you're going to have crit by default, or you're going to start having a passive crit rather than the active crit that this item gives. So you don't, there will come a time where you don't want an ocular HUD. Backup is meh at best unless you're playing captain, and then it's kind of like, it's still not better than ATG or not the ATG, but the missile launcher and the royal capacitor. But on captain, it's pretty solid. But it's more, I use it more as a defensive tool than I would as an offensive tool on captain. Strictly because you get 4 more of his stupid passive effect thing, which is so broken. This item is generally good. The Prey on Accumulator. Sure, it does a big hit. Royal Capacitor out damages it 100%. The cooldown is quicker than the Prey on Accumulator. The damage technically outmatches the Prey on because it hits more times than the Prey on would hit. Like, you can hit, I think you can use Royal Capacitor 3 times before you can use Prey on twice. And the Royal Capacitor, doing it 3 times does more damage than the Prey on would once. So that's the math behind it. Usually Royal Capacitor is just better. Plus you can miss Royal Capacitor now, but normally you can't miss it. So Milky Chrysalis is generally, I'll take it. I think it's the best mobility one they have, but usually it's whatever. This item's too situational. Apparently there's a cult surrounding the Kickstarter moneymaker thing. I don't know what the heck it's called, but personally I'd rather not waste my money on that stuff. This item is amazing. In terms of HP, health regen, this item will carry you through the game early and maybe even until the second loop. Unless you start getting like fuel cells and the gesture and the soulbound catalyst, then you want the offensive ones. But Wood Sprite is so good, honestly. This item's not worth picking up. This item's sure meh at best. This item's not even worth picking up. This item's meh at best. This item can be, it's too situational. You need the full combo, right? The full equipment combo to get the 100% uptime. And then, like, why would you have that when you can just have the missile launcher or royal capacitor, right? I don't like this item. I think it's fine, but as a damage item, I think it's lacking quite substantially. but maybe that's just me. This item is nuts, by the way. It's not crazy good past the first few. I don't know, man. Keep this item. If you find a recycler, pick that up and start recycling crap. You're gonna have your run. It's so good forming runs early game, honestly. Like, this item will carry you 100%. Leeching seed, or not leeching seed, the super massive leech is situational. It depends on who you're playing for it to work. When it does, when you use it and you have the right survivor to use it on, it's decent, but most of the time it's whatever. This item gets worse as the run goes on, so, but we're gonna put it in 2 situational because it's pretty solid within the first loop, but there's no reason to have it. And then this item is generally good to have for the kill stuff, for the on kill effects. There's a lot of on kill effects in the game, and this item procs all of them, and it is very good. But still not better than Royal Capacitor or Missile Launcher, in my opinion. Alright, that being said, we're gonna do the aspects a little bit differently because they're so rare. If I had to say it, I'd put them in not worth the effort at all, even if one does drop, because normally the other equipment is just better in general. Except for the fire one. I'd say the fire one is generally good because, you know, burn damage in this game, burn damage is pretty solid to begin with. But we're gonna rank the aspects by themselves, not according to the rest of the list, right? So this one is the best one in the game. If you find it, if you had to choose between the aspects, the fire one is the best one, 100%. The ice one is meh. I don't think it's worth picking up, honestly. At most you get the debuff for death mark. The overloading one is straight damage. You don't get any debuff or anything, but it does more damage. And then these last 2 are just, don't even bother picking it up. It's not worth it. One gives invis, and invis got super nerfed, so there's no point. And then the other one is just AoE explosions around you, and you don't want to be that close to them anyway, so there's no point. Plus, it's not like monsters heal normally in vanilla, at least. Maybe they do? I don't think so, unless you're like in the void fields and you get screwed over by RNG or whatever, but that's just me. All in all, I think this is it. Honestly, these are the items that I would like to see. There's a few items that I want to see get buffed or nerfed. Or not nerfed. You want every item to get buffed, trust me. That makes the game much easier, but there's a few items that need reworks, honestly, or they need something to make it slightly better. But that's just my opinion. So on that note, my name has been Axotol. This has been a tier list of all the items of Risk of Rain 2. I might do survivors, maybe, in the future. I don't know. It depends on how much stuff this gets. Maybe I'll do them, maybe I won't. Maybe I'll rank abilities, huh? I think that's a cool thing. But anyways, this has been all the items. Make sure you drink some water, and I will be here when you tune in next time. I'll go to sleep.